This Lufthansa Airlines Boeing 737-100, seen here on February 26, 1968, had cigar-shaped Pratt & Whitney engines that had a fan diameter of 42.5 inches. The 737 MAX's LEAP 1B has a diameter of 69.4 inches. Corbus via Getty Images. In the aftermath of two crashes of Boeing's 737 MAX that resulted in the deaths of more than 300 people, the plane maker's engineering choices, namely the decision to fit a larger engine onto an aircraft design that dates back to the 1960s, have come under scrutiny. When the 737-100 debuted in 1968, it was designed to be low to the ground to ease boarding by ladder. As Boeing has stretched its best-selling plane over the years to fit more passengers, and the bypass fans on jet engines have gotten bigger to drive more air, Boeing has had to come up with creative solutions on successive models to make the engines fit under the wings. The engine on the 737-300, which debuted in 1984, was put in a housing with a flattened lower lip that was likened to a hamster mouth, with accessories like the generators and fuel pumps moved to the sides, making pouch-like bulges. On the 737 MAX, which debuted in 2017, the engines were placed higher up on the wings and further forward. Boeing discovered that their greater size and position gave the plane's nose a tendency to tilt upward in certain high-speed maneuvers, running the risk that it could lose lift. To counter that, Boeing added a flight control program called the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS, which automatically pushes the nose down when the plane is being flown by hand and the angle at which it's flying is close to allowing an aerodynamic stall. It's suspected that a faulty angle of attack sensor led the MCAS to engage on Lion Air Flight 610, which plunged into the sea off Indonesia shortly after takeoff on October 29, killing all 186 on board. The similarities between that accident and Sunday's crash of an Ethiopian Airlines plane that killed 157 have led regulators around the world to ground the 737 MAX while investigators work to determine the cause. At the beginning of this decade, Boeing was considering replacing the 737 with an all-new airplane, envisioning a lighter weight, elliptical composite fuselage, an advanced electrical system and, of course, easy clearance to fit a larger, more efficient engine. But new plane designs inherently carry more risk. While new aircraft are rigorously tested and inspected to gain certification, problems often arise after they enter into service, both mechanical and in pilots' understanding of them. An Airbus A320 famously crashed during a demonstration flight at an airshow in France in 1988, in part because the captain misunderstood the flight control logic. If you'd done a new, clean sheet of paper design, you might have introduced more risk into the system, says R. John Hansman, an aeronautics professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The lithium-ion battery fires that led to a 3-month grounding of the Boeing 787 in 2013 emerged out of an attempt to transition to a radically new electric architecture. It wasn't clear they could find a solution in a reasonable amount of time, says Richard Abulafia, an analyst with Teal Group. By comparison, the MCAS problem looks simpler, although the consequences have been infinitely more serious. Boeing is working on a software patch and enhancements to the angle of attack sensor inputs that, combined with training changes, are expected to solve the problem, experts say, assuming the two crash investigations don't uncover other issues. The 737 is the best-selling airliner of all time, with over 10,000 produced. Consequently, the basic design and many of the systems on board are well proven. The repositioning of the engine on the new version is not an overreach, says Hansman. The stability augmentation should work, and once they get the software patch it will work fine, I think. There are business pressures on manufacturers to keep updating an old design, too. It's quicker, cheaper, and the certification process is easier. In 2010 Airbus had launched a program to put a new, more efficient engine on the rival A320, and with demand for narrow bodies high, Boeing fretted it would lose market share in the 7 to 10 years that it would have taken to bring a clean sheet design to market. A game theory modeling analysis conducted by James K. D. Morrison, a graduate student of Hansman's, backs up Boeing's thinking. Even though you would get more performance with a new design, you'd end up losing, because for that 10 years your competitor would be selling airplanes, says Hansman. From a business standpoint, I